Tonight is August 25, 2021, and welcome to another episode of Manila Standard on the Road. I hope everybody is doing good and doing safe as usual, especially with the pandemic still going on at lalong-lalo na umuulan-ulan pa in some areas of the country. So, like I said, hope everybody is staying safe. Another interesting episode is coming your way tonight. But before anything else, let me introduce to you my co-host for tonight, Miss Dana Uson. Good evening, Dana. How are you?
Hi, Milo. Good evening.
How's it been, Dana? Welcome to
Good.
MS on the Road. I know this is your first episode as host.
I know, and I think I'm just as excited as our upcoming interviewee. So, no, I'm super excited for today, and thanks so much for having me join you.
Well, I think tonight's episode is going to be the perfect way to start things off as the host of this show, and looks like the topic we'll be talking about is pretty interesting in itself.
For sure. And without meaning to spoil anything, Milo, maybe let's go over the news for today, and then we can build up to our special guest.
Sakto, sakto. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is our roundup of news for tonight, August 25, 2021. Starting off with the OTR asks LTO to temporarily suspend the PMVIC inspection requirement. Now the Department of Transportation asks the Land Transportation Office to temporarily halt the implementation of mandatory inspection of private vehicles. In an announcement, the OTR Secretary Arthur Tugade ordered LTO to do a thorough review on the policy and to maintain its previous process and requirements for registration where riders can choose between having a PMVIC inspection or have their vehicles tested at a private emission testing center. We've actually had an episode about this data just a few months ago, and it's been sparking controversy now because a lot of the people are against it, given that um, mahal yung bayad, bakit pa kailangang magbayad ng extra for this inspection if their cars are working well. And there are actually two sides of the story nga. And according to the government, it's good to have a more thorough inspection on the vehicles that are sharing the road every day. So with that news, mukhang titignan natin ano ba magiging developing stories after this.
Yeah, for sure. And I can understand why it's a tricky situation, right? Because I get both sides. There is interest on the government side, but ngayon ka pa, ngayon mapahihingin sa tao na lalabas sila, di ba, to go out in the middle of a global pandemic for the emissions tests. But no, Milo, I think this next bit of news is going to be a little bit more exciting to our viewers than the last one. So for our second highlight for today, oil firms cut gasoline and kerosene prices. So oil firms have cut pump prices by as much as 90 cents per liter, effective 6 a.m. on Tuesday, to reflect the movement of prices in the world oil market. The oil companies, Petron, PTT Philippines, Sea Oil Philippines, Clean Fuel, Petrogas, Flying V, and Chevron Philippines have slashed the price of kerosene by 90 cents per liter, gasoline by 80 cents per liter, and diesel by 75 cents per liter. This is the third weekly consecutive oil price rollback. Again, I'm sure as much the good news of many, as the Delta variant continues to affect global economies. And saktong-sakto, Milo, I think this news sa guest natin today. With the topic of our show today, hindi na natin kailangan alalahanin ang presyo ng gas. And with that, we'll find out more after the break.
That was too quick of a break though. Parang walang nangyari. Nag-transition lang ako.
No, Mr. I know. Parang di mo lang ako nakainom ng tubig.
Diba? Ako rin eh.
Sige, pwede na.
I'm sure our guest tonight, ang dami ng nainom na tubig ngayong gabi in preparation for this interview. But yeah, welcome back to Manila Standard on the Road. For those just tuning in right now, a while ago we were able to give you a quick roundup of the news regarding the PMVIC suspension or the pledge for that to do so, and as well as the rollback in fuel prices. But as Dana mentioned nga just a while ago, for this episode, hindi muna natin iisipin ang mga oil prices ngayon. Lalong-lalo na if you'll be considering a very, very big switch in terms of your personal transportation and maybe, Dana, transportation around the country.
Definitely. And that's an exciting proposition, right? No need for fuel, both for your personal cars and to explore the rest of the country, be it via train, by bus, by jeep, by a tricycle. Um, Exciting. Milo, why don't you go ahead and call on our guest?
All right, no worries about that. To introduce, sorry, ako nga pala mag-introduce ng guest. To talk about tonight's topic, obviously, electric vehicles have been a thing of the future, or pretty much a thing of today already. But is it really worth the switch at this time? And especially if you're taking a look at things from a very, very long term perspective, is it the right choice to make? Well, our guest tonight rather, will give us a good enlightenment on why electric vehicles is already a thing of the present. So, without further ado, our guest for tonight is the president of the Electric Vehicles Association of the Philippines, or EVAP, Mr. Edmund Araga. Good evening, Sir Edmund. How's it going po?
Good evening. Hi, Sir Milo, and hi, Miss Dana.
Yes,
It's a pleasure to be having on your show.
the pleasure is ours, and we thank you so much for joining us tonight. And mukhang maganda-ganda hong usapan ito, lalong-lalo na that you are probably the best person to talk to when it comes to electric vehicles today. Given mo, given ho nga na you are the president of the EVAP, or the Electric Vehicles Association of the Philippines. So, siguro to start things off po, Sir Edmund, what is the history of EVAP, or when did it start? What is the primary objective or the primary mission of this association?
Okay, thanks for that, Sir Milo. Well, we started off back to 2008. It is a group of automotive suppliers manufacturing local supplies to OEs. No, they try to anticipate the situation that the gear towards the auto industry is into electric. So our chairman Emeritus and our chairman spearheaded it, and together with other members, other board of directors and other members. Now, through the course of time, we're more than a decade already. Ang annual activity namin is the EV Summit, the Philippine EV Summit. This coincides with supporting the industry together with our partners, Meralco, who who supported us from the beginning up to now. So talagang nandiyan sila sa likod namin para to enhance this very upcoming industry. Now, we are of about 54 members. More of it is about 14 manufacturers on local of e-trikes and Egypt's manufacturing. And the other key stakeholders are multinationals like Nissan, Mitsubishi, Hyundai, BYD, and some suppliers from and some academe and advocate of the industry. So, yun nagpapaloob yung EVAP. Tapos, what we are doing is always, since we represent the private sector, kami yung mga gumagawa ng mga projects and programs that is inclined to the industry, and we work together with the government sectors of different agencies para mag-come up ng mga different programs in supporting the industry. And also, we looking into that technical committees of different law policymakers, from Senator Gatchalian to the Congress to the OTR, LTO, BOI on the roadmaps. those are the activities that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So the association is pretty straightforward po ba, di ba? As it says.
Mm.
And you've also mentioned the what you do, who you're tied up with, yung mga vision and mission nyo, given the association itself. But what are the projects nowadays, especially now, that drive towards fulfilling each objective or each mission that the association stands for?
Actually, Milo, all the projects that we had achieved or progressed with are like, for example, establishing technical committees under TC 89, which is under the Bureau of Philippine Standards (DTI). So we are start establishing guidelines and standards para sa EV industry, not only on the EV vehicles but on its infrastructures. We also come up with programs from the OTR, like the PUB modernization program, uh, in emphasizing the replacement of the 15-year-old jeepneys to modernized jeepneys under the 5678. Yung parang sayaw lang, no? 5% interest rate, 6 years to pay, 7%, uh, 80,000 yung subsidy,
Yeah.
pero naging 160 last year. So, yun yung mga pinagtatrabahuhan namin. Tapos under DOE, we come up with kasi meron na silang yung renewable energy na program nila in support of the approval of the law. So, we work together with them, especially on the charging stations. Tapos, na-achieve din namin before is like we lobbied for the excise tax, and this is part of the train law that
Yeah.
zero excise tax on electric but 50% on the hybrid. So yun yung mga na-lobby na namin. So ang isa na lang namin ina-aspire is the Electric Vehicles and Charging Stations Act. Yung sa Senate bill, okay na yung kay Senator Gatchalian, our champion for the Senate. And the
Yeah.
counterpart is under Congressman Mikey Arroyo, yung Force 075 na collaborative with a lot of bills into one. Now it's on the plenary, hoping sana within this year then magkaroon na ng linaw and collaborate these two into law and to be signed and approved by our president. So, medyo marami din naman kaming kahit papano na-achieve through the course of time. Tapos, we also had collaborated with the academe chapters. We have 6 academe chapters. Don Bosco, Mapua, Lasal, the Ateneo, UP, and TUP, and Mapua, who we want to develop on sustainability and continuity of the trends. Kasi ang innovation nasa EV na talaga, di ba? So, we have to come up with a lot of programs and continuously elevate the services into electric, no? So, yun yung mga ginagawa namin. Tapos, we also, ano pa ba on the program? Mga roadmap. Roadmap will be coming from, we had already from BOI, DTI, but we have to make an amendment because of, we need some updates. And another roadmap that would be coming from Department of Energy, in line with the charging stations and other items that is related to the industry. Sorry, medyo madaldal ba ako?
Okay lang.
There, go lang, sir. Marami na kaming lined up na tanong for you. Actually,
Ay,
picking up
ganon.
from that, Sir Ed, a lot of the things that you mentioned is very heavy into regulation, no? And that requires a constant view of the situation of the EV industry in the Philippines. Could you share with us and our viewers, I guess, a quick overview of where the EV industry in the Philippines is today? You mentioned the roadmap, so maybe a good way to frame it is where are we today versus where we want to be, 10, 20
Okay.
years from now.
Miss Dana, bibigyan muna kita ng isang concrete data. As of the moment, we are about 12,000 registered e-vehicles na, no? Out of which is 7,000 comprises the major pack on e-trikes, no? and then e-motorcycles at 4,000, and e-jeepneys at 679 that is registered, e-cars at 276, and we have e-SUVs and e-trucks and e-buses na. So, through the course of time, nung nagsimula kami, talagang ilan lang yung na-register. Saka yun yung ina-address namin before, how can we go into the financing side of things if there's no registration? So, yun yung ina-address namin. Now, in terms of the roadmaps, kailangan item by item departmentalize. We have to come up with the terms of working together with the government sector. Kasi each and every department in the government sector has its own responsibilities. Hindi naman pwedeng i-conceptualize or ipack lang sa isang government sector. So, we work together hand in hand with them. From time to time, they call us up. Kami naman si Mr. Every, lagi kaming available para address yung concerns nila. So, syempre, we are looking at yung future side of things. Ito, kailangan stable yung industry as what they had before during the auto industry establishment. No? Ganun kami katutok.
Yeah. And I'm surprised, sir, na ang baba pala ng count of EVs in the Philippines. You know, if we have 300,000 automotive sales a year and we're only at 12,000 vehicles.
Yeah. Actually, Ms. Dina, it's, ano nga lang, medyo dun nga lang natin tinitingnan yung angulo na sana mabuhay ulit ang manufacturing industry in terms of the transportation through electric vehicle. That's why there is one particular program of BOI that is in the works with this EVs, electric vehicle investment strategy, wherein nakapaloob na yung kanilang program for this that emphasizing on the manufacturing and what could be the benefits or some sort of subsidies for the consumers para this is part and parcel of their investment priorities program na rin para magkaroon sila ng additional support on it. So, kahit pa paano, meron na tayo nakikitang linaw. The only thing that is that makes it hinder is on the finance side of things because most of the commercial banks are not yet open to finance an EV. But lately, since the launching of some e-cars like Nissan Leafs, mga Jaguar I-Pace, Porsche Taycan, so their dealers are the ones who are in charge for the finances of it. But in terms of the local manufacturing, like for the e-jeeps and e-trikes, wala pa ring kundi for the PUB modernization program, Land Bank and that DBP pa lang ang pwedeng makapag-finance. Pero on the private commercial banks, wala pa for now.
Yeah. And I'm curious, Sir Ed, just something to clarify for our viewers, I guess. Are there technicalities to the word EV? Like a hybrid car, for example, is that considered an EV?
Well, yes. There are different types of hybrids, Miss Dana. There are just hybrid, there is plug-in hybrid, no? Hybrids are the one that being mostly used by in Toyota Prius, no? It's hybrid because they are only inclined on two motors, motor for the electric motors and for the fuel that is they have their engine. But on the plug-in hybrid, you can charge it at home or you can charge it anywhere, you making use of an adapter para makapag-charge yung battery. So though there are a lot of categories on that, but on BEV or battery electric vehicle, that is pure EV, that is a different, which has its certain number of range capacity that can be used on such vehicles, no?
Very clear, Sir Ed. Thank you. Go ahead, Michael.
Sorry, it's okay. As you mentioned, Sir Ed, marami na rin talaga lumalabas na mga models globally in terms of
yes,
electric vehicle production. And it's very promising to know that even the local sectors, local manufacturers rather, are developing electric vehicles that have many purposes, like e-trikes, e-jeepneys, and all that. What would you say, however, is the biggest challenge in terms of implementing this to a bigger scale kahit dito lang po sa bansa natin? Is it
Okay,
the number of sales? Is it
yeah.
your certain
Actually, sir,
ecosystem?
actually, Sir Milo, there are a lot of challenges. For one, the users. You have to educate them first.
Yeah.
What are their functions? What would be the benefits? Huwag mo na tingnan yung cost. Kasi ang unang tinitingnan ng lahat, pagka Pilipino, lalo, magkano ba to? Di ba? Ganyan yan
Ah,
eh. Tapos, ano ba ang magiging benefit nito? Ilan ba yung lagi kong papalitan, yung PMS nito? Ilan ba yung mga ganon? They are looking at it on a short term but not on a long term. Parang kailangan sa investment, kailangan tingnan mo kung ano ang magiging benefits on your part when you buy a certain unit. Second is on in terms of why public transportation, not e-cars. Kasi mas complicated pag electric cars, di ba? As Filipinos, we want to parang leapfrog tayo eh. Kung ano yung kaya muna natin gawin, yun dun muna tayo mag-start. Saka very simple lang naman gumawa ng e-trike saka ng e-jeep eh. Para ka lang gumagawa ng Lego. Nakakatuwa siyang gawin kasi it's very simple. Ang application, it's very simple. And yung pagkaka-setup niya, very simple din. Now, in terms of, as mentioned earlier, bottleneck finance. So, talagang struggle yan. Mahirap mag-convince. Una nun, hindi namin tatanggapin yan. Walang registration. So, ginawa namin. We work together with the LTO. We prove to them na mariregister to. Tapos nilagyan namin ng categories on the guidelines which we work with LTO and as approved last May 11, 2021, with circulation of the guidance and the categories of each and every e-vehicles. Ginawa na rin namin yan. We lobby it for 2 years already and buti naman, approve na rin. So, kailangan talaga, para bang para bang gagawa ka ng isang simpleng laruan, pero marami pala itong features in the end. Kasi modification is easier when it's accepted na really on the market. But for now, ang ginagawa namin, kagaya namin, sa private sector, kami muna yung testing waters eh. Kami muna yung gumagawa ng programs. Kami muna yung nagpipinance for the meantime. And then, eventually, kung ano man yung napag-aralan namin at natutunan namin, charge to experience ba? So, iyaano namin yun. Tapos, i-relay namin and then i-write down namin. And the good thing about it is we work together, not only on the private sector, but we work with the academy, with the technical person, we work with the government para nahimay na natin ang uso. Pagdating talaga ng araw, maayos na siya.
kumbaga Sir Edmond, parang parang radio control na kotse na malaki lang, mas malaki na baterya,
Yes.
mas malaking kotse, and
Yes.
with a lot of features of it being a real vehicle. Would you
Yeah.
say, sir, na it's also a matter of convincing the public or convincing certain people in order to make the industry bigger or more
Yeah.
accepted?
So, what our approach was public transportation. So, it is the masses who would really be more beneficial or the consumer or the riders, no? Doon nila makikita yung beauty of using the EVs in particular. So, nakakapanibago para sa kanila na baguhin mo yung konsepto. Lalo na kung, uy, tahimik. Wow, ang sarap sakyan, ganon. Yun lang, walang aircon. Tapos, yung mga ganon, di ba? Pero, for one, we innovate something out of nothing. No, we try to build something that is very useful. And we put some system. Like, hindi na yung kagaya na bara-bara na kung saan lang hihinto yung jeep. May certain terminals na kailangan silang in. So, we put in some system. Tapos, kailangan din tuturuan mo sila kung papaano gamitin ng tama. Hindi naman basta-basta mo lang patatakbuhin yan. So, there are a lot. So, hindi ganun kadali. Hindi rin simple.
Kung hihimayin ho natin, Sir Edmond, would you say that the problem is present nationwide or the concern is present nationwide? Or there are certain parts of the country lang that you would want to focus on, or sa Metro Manila lang ba? Or certain provinces
Okay. Yeah, yun yung ano, Sir Milo. Would you believe there are already more than 600 that is deployed in General Santos City for the Egypts? General Santos City, that's in Mindanao. Meaning to say, one cooperative who is a member of ours are using electric jeepneys na, no? Na na-escalate na yung, hindi lang kami nakafocus sa Metro Manila. There are a lot of urban cities, in fact, that is more promising than Metro Manila. Ang hirap sa Metro Manila. Una, makakadagdag ka sa traffic. 'Di ba? Pangalawa, ang taas ng politika dito sa Metro Manila. 'Di ba? Unlike in other provinces, if it is new, we can introduce it, we can set it up. Like, take the case of Boracay. Boracay is, there are about 500 e-trikes there in the island. And they have their battery swapping system already in place that is running more than 5 years. So, how effective it is? Ano nagiging effect nito sa lugar nila? And did the public appreciate it? I believe so. And in fact, ang lakas kumita ng mga e-trike drivers to. Siguro mga 3 na yata asawa nila. Ay, hindi. Mga 3 yung mga sasakyan nila. Ganon.
Sir Ed, I love the examples of Boracay and Jensen. No? Ilan na po yung mga naging partner na LGU nyo today, and what would you say are the most successful examples aside from Jensen
Okay.
and Boracay?
Well, we'll talk about DOE's program with together with the ADB on deployment of the 3,000 e-trikes. No, the 3,000 e-trikes that was being deployed to the local government units, specifically in the Luzon and some parts of Visayas and Mindanao. Ano yun? Siguro more than 20 or ano na yun na i-deploy kasi each local government unit was given 100 units at least for the 3,000. So, na-deploy yun. That is on the e-trike alone. Tapos, meron pa mga members kami na may hawak nila yung akin ang Bicol. Yung hindi naman tondo. Ganun. Mga ganung mga side, no? So, merong nasa side ng Isabela side sa northern part. Merong mga nag-handle. No? Kaya, if you're looking at it, the market is huge. And the potential is very big. However, capitalization is very big question, and financing is really a hard to find source, no? So yun yung isang aspect. Kasi kagaya niyan, Miss Dana, sa mga usual na, let's say for example na lang motorsiklo, sa dami ng dealer nila, no? Kaya maraming gumagamit ng motorsiklo ngayon. There are about more than 1 million a year ang pinoproduce ng local manufacturer natin, yung sa Big Four. Hindi pa kasama yung Chinese motorcycles, no? Kaya prosperous sila kasi maraming dealers tapos may financing sila. Sa e-trike, sa Egypt, wala eh. Before, it was being handled by the manufacturers. Kaso hindi naman pwedeng ilagay namin lahat ng we put all the eggs in one basket na pati ba naman yun, isasagutin pa namin. Hindi na kami mabubuhay nun, di ba? So yun yung mga senaryo na kailangan na maintindihan.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's interesting, Sir Ed, no, lagi talaga bumabalik sa financing. Like, you really need strong backers for the industry to take off.
Yeah.
One other question for you. If you think about what will help the adoption, do you see mga industries na there's potential for adoption of EVs as well? Because public transportation is what we're focusing on today. But for example, do you see mga logistics companies taking on more EVs?
You're right, Miss Dana. In fact, for the moment, medyo put on hold yung since pandemic situation, ang hirap ng situation on the public transportation kasi 50% lang. And the mere fact that most of the cooperatives or the companies, fleet operators doesn't have much to capitalize on buying certain So logistics come in. Puso na yung pa-delivery, di ba? So, yun din yung kailangan natin. Siyempre, ikaw dyan si Miss Shopee o si Miss Lazada. Kung yun, may convert natin into electric, di ba? O, sa pagka nagugutom ka, si Grab lang saka si iisipin mo. Yun, ma-convert natin into electric. That's a good avenue. So yun yung wino-work out din namin. Not only on that, but also on logistics on transporting the goods, no? Kung meron mga utility vehicles na gagamitin, this is an avenue for them. Kasi based on our study, hindi naman sila halos lumatakbo ng more than 100 kilometers in a day. So, if it is being worthy talaga na isang electric vehicle, ang pwede nilang gamitin para sa isang deployment ng unit, talagang, they would save a lot on it. Talagang upfront cost ang pinaka-problema eh. Mahal kasi. Kalahati ng cost nun is batteries, no? Kaya pati kami, we are working on looking at finding ways how to have a battery manufacturer. Although meron na tayo, member din namin, na battery manufacturer that concentrates on lead acid, but should also concentrate on considering the lithium ions. Kasi most of the units right now are into lithium ions na.
So,
I see. And
sorry to cut you there.
go ahead, Milo.
Sir Edmund mentioned the batteries nga. And kasi yun halos yung pinaka source of almost everything nyo eh. So, given what you know, sir, ano po ba usually ang average na mga lifespan ng mga batteries na ito for the benefit of our viewers?
Actually, sir, ikaw ba may cellphone?
Meron.
Ilang taon na cellphone mo?
To 1 year? 1
year. Normal cellphones natin, pag di ka ma-avail ng mga plan, 2 years, saka ka nagpapalit, di ba? Pero it's still working. Now, that's not also an issue on the electric vehicles. Kasi malalaki din naman yung capacity nito. Before, it was being questioned, would it last more than 5 years, 3 years, 4 years? Now, it can be proven that it lasts depending on how you use it. Ang problema lang naman din natin is the user. Eh. Kung kagaya mo sa cellphone, lagi mo charge, masisira, di ba? Pero kung you know how to manage it, that's what we partake into is the battery management system. Pag sinabi ng manufacturer, pagdating ng 20%, i-charge mo na. O pagdating ng 80, pull the plug, or 90%, pull the plug na. Huwag mong i-100% kasi nasisira yung battery. Those are the things na kailangan natin ituro eh, para tumagal. Pati yung cellphone mo, ganun din naman. Na-overcharge o whatever. Ganun yung problema natin. So, then, I would just like to, we have source of material, mineral ores, nickel and cobalt here in the Philippines. If we put emphasis on it na pwede nating i-capitalize, na pwede nating gawing battery supply dito at i-process dito, that would make more sense. Kasi ang ginagawa natin, yung mga miners natin, they are just selling it at yung mineral ore lang mismo, or itself, and then sell it to mostly in China. Pero kung yun ay process dito, it adds value to their product.
Sakto nga, parang it all boils down to proper education also, as you mentioned a while ago, Sir Edmund. Kasi yung iba, bibili na lang ng electric vehicle or sabihin, sige, try nga natin to, like in anything, and then they don't know how to use it. And then they end up blaming the product because hindi nila palpak, when the root cause is the wrong manner of use it. Diba?
Yes. Take the case na lang na, sorry pero I would just like to emphasize on the Chinese e-bikes. Kahit sa lumingon ka, may mga bahay na bumibili, Chinese bikes. No? May proper care din talaga yan para tumagal yung baterya. But it seems that hindi nila tinitake for granted nila. Basta nagamit, gano'n, di ba? So, yun yung isang mga problema. Pero, at the same time, there are some categories that if you buy more, yung mas mahal, you would gain something na, yung baterya nito, hindi na lead acid o yung lithium-ion battery, mga ganon eh. So, it has certain variants or models para tumagal siya. Kung gusto mo ng budget meal, bibili ka ng mura. Pero kung gusto mo ng you would try a higher end, yung high-end type. Mga ganon.
Yeah. Sir Ed, we've talked about many things now. We've talked about cost. We've talked about education required on the consumer's part, regulation, investments in manufacturing. If you take all of this together, how would you say the Philippines compares to our peers in Southeast Asia or even China, which you just mentioned na feeling ko
Okay.
way ahead of us?
Yeah. Yeah, Miss Dana. Just this morning, I attended an ASEAN meeting, and China is really way ahead in any
Ang
parts of the
galing,
world.
no?
In fact, because of the government's support, they offer some subsidies, some incentives that makes more sense to them in buying or using the electric vehicles. Second, in particular, they have also the program that is being supported not only on the government but also on the consumer itself. If this won't be supported fully by other industries, it doesn't make sense. Kailangan kasi natin ma-reach natin yung parity to have it to cost down. Eh. Yun yung problema natin. Eh. So, others might also consider on if you're going to buy another set of vehicle, why not go electric? Para malaman mo. Kaya kailangan ano natin yan eh. Hindi naman pwedeng na we just tell them, we walk the talk. Use it. Try to as an advocate, kailangan pakita mo sa kanila kung ano yung talagang nagiging benefits niya. Para kasi kailangan nakikita eh. 'Di ba? Para at least ma-appreciate ng mga tao. And besides, one thing in particular, we have another set of renewable energy source power supply, which is marami rin yung into solar. If you have a solar panels in your house and you can set it up, mas malaki ititipid mo. Because your source of energy will be coming from the solar energy, not from directly from the grid. So another set that it would help you save a lot. So there are a lot of options. Not only, kasi tataas ang Meralco bill ko. Kasi Meralco madalas yung ano, no? Pero hindi yun eh. Look at the brighter side of things. Kahit tingnan mo yung kung magkano yung ginagastos mo sa kuryente as against na kinocompare mo sa gasolina mo na kinoconsume mo, yun yung kailangan mo pag-aralan. Second, how many kilometers do you usually use your car or your vehicles? Minomonitor mo ba yun? Wala ka pakialam doon. Basta sakay ka na sakay. Basta may gasoline station. Basta may... Iyan yung problema ng mga users na kailangan ituro sa kanila. You have to teach them.
Pretty much, sir, you told us a lot of things about why it's very practical, or why it's a very lucrative way or decision to go through or to choose electric vehicles rather. For those pa rin na not fully convinced up until right now, what would be the most, in your opinion, the most practical or most effective approach in order to educate, promote, and or convince these people?
Okay. The more practical way is that ito na lang eh. Did you know that in terms of consumption of expenditures in the government, the land transportation or the using of the cars in particular has a biggest pie of the share when in terms of importation. If you're going to make an importation of the fuels or the barrels of oils that we are doing it, hindi tayo nakakasave as a country. But if you find an alternative ways of saving this by making use of an e-vehicle, you do your, as a country, as a Filipino, para makapag-save yung government natin. Isang bagay lang yun na pwede mong consider. Second, na-emphasize natin on health problems because nalilimit natin yung greenhouse gas emissions na ini-emit ng mga ICEs. So in that particular, we address concerns on health. In fact, during the last year's pandemic, nung nakita natin yung bundok ng Tralalaan, bundok ng during the pandemic, nakikita natin yung surrounding because walang smog. We can see the clear skies because walang masyadong gumagamit na sasakyan nun. And if we're going to make use of an electric, makikita mo maganda rin yung nagiging benepisyo nito. In China alone, way back, I was there. I remember I was there in 2010. I went to Beijing and we checked in. I stayed there for more than 10 days from cross countries, no? Grabe yung Beijing, hindi mo makikita yung langit because of the smog. But when I went back, 2015 ba yun? 2018, parang ganun. Yung same hotel na piniplacean ko, kitang-kita ko na yun. No? Kasi kinontrol na nila yung Beijing area, na bawal na doon yung mga manufacturing plants na nag-emit ng smoke. And that's because they find ways on how to address this issue. Not only on the factories, but all more so by making use of electric vehicles in that city.
Yeah, and sir, and I love that you bring that up because most people forget now when you think about the cost of a car, it's not just the monetary cost, diba? Binabayaran din natin with our health, all of the
Yes.
emissions that come from the car.
Yes.
I wanted to just bring it back to one thing that you mentioned earlier in our interview, Sir Ed. One way to think about education kasi is education of the end consumer, di ba? So ito po mga sinasabi niyo na how do you convince the end consumer na that this is an investment na worth it. But another way to look at it, and you said it then earlier, is to think about investment at the educational institution level. Do you see excitement from children, or not naman children, the younger people,
Young
I guess,
generations.
younger generations? Do you see excitement in them to learn, to be involved in this industry? And if not, how do we get more of them into this whole area?
Actually, Ms. Dana, matutuwa ka kasi most of the, well, in our academic chapters, yung mga engineers, they're very inclined because they learn a lot from the innovations of the electric vehicles and its infrastructure. And the way to move forward is looking at this direction because yung conventional, hindi na masyadong parang pace outside na siya, di ba? So yun yung nagkakaroon sila lalo ng interest. So kailangan lumebel ka sa kung ano yung kalakaran worldwide. And that's what I fear of, na kailangan pati tayo, wag maiwan pati yung generations natin. Kasi paano natin i-inculcate sa mind ng person yung sa mga estudyante natin kung hindi natin tinuturo yung mga innovative approach ng mga natututunan natin sa labas and what it can do. So ito nga, kagaya niyan, Tesla is parang siya na ngayon ang pinaka Diyos ng electric vehicles because he addresses all concerns on all aspects, no? At maging empleyado ka lang ng Tesla, yung mga yun, pangarap ng mga engineers niya. Kasi baka mamaya ma-elevate pa sila, mapunta sa SpaceX o hindi lang pala electric, mapupunta pa sa buwan or something to do with that, sa Mars. So, ibig sabihin, ang laki ng playing field natin. Now, nung mga students natin, their interest has to have them muy catchy, no? And to have it, this is the way to move forward on the e-vehicles.
And we have to make sure there are jobs for them, diba? Kasi pag-aaralan nila, tapos pag-graduate naman na wala naman pala silang pasukan in the Philippines.
Saka, Miss Dana, I guarantee you, most of the boys nag-start sa electric. Yung mga kotse nila, electric yun eh.
Wow.
RCs.
I can agree with you on that, Sir Edward. I can agree with you.
Diba? Tamiya. Oh.
Meron din akong Tamiya when I was younger.
Mas bigger scale lang talaga ngayon. Totoo. Lahat naman tayo lumalaki. We all grow up.
Yeah.
We used to grow up. But yun nga, thank you so much, Sir Edmund, for all the insights actually. And siguro, as part of our last questions for you for tonight, how do you see, through the efforts of you and EVAP, how do you see the industry in a few years' time? Is there a certain figure you want to attain? There a certain vision? What would that be?
Well, we are still very optimistic that the way to move forward is is in this industry. And we do emphasize that we are not alone. We are working with the government and we are working with the academe. And in elevating this on this infrastructure that we live in, kakampi natin lahat yan. No? Pangalawa is that we try to emphasize that we never stop on learning because in this particular, maraming learnings pagdating sa innovations in terms of electric. And second is that as long as we felt that we work together as a team, as a countryman, as a Filipino, para ma-establish natin tong industry na to, it can never go wrong. So, kaya nga kailangan sabihin natin sa ibang bansa na kaya din natin kahit na hindi man tayo tinalad na yung mayaman. Mayabang lang tayo. At least sa yabang meron tayo, no?
Pwede na.
Pero the one thing that we can be more proud of is that we started here in the Philippines. So we elevate and tell other people that we are here, we are present. We can do things with you. We can work together. No? It's the only thing that we can capitalize is how to communicate with them. Right. No? Let's do something to look forward to work together tayo.
Yeah. And Sir Ed, we can keep going on with you for the rest of the night, but we recognize magwa 1 hour na pala kami with you. So with that, for any of our viewers that's interested to learn more about the electric vehicle industry, perhaps Sir Ed, you'd like to invite them to your upcoming summit in September.
Oh, I think we lost him right there.
We lost him.
Nice.
Okay, well, hoping he comes back on. Pero meron pong summit, EVAC, this coming end of September.
Yeah.
It's called Accelerating the Switch to Electro-Mobility in the Philippines. You can visit the website www.evac.com.ph to learn more about the event and also to register either as an individual or as a corporation.
Yes, it's actually their 9th edition already after EVAC's 11-year run. So, ayun, saktong-sakto.
Sorry about it. Bigla na putol eh.
No problem, sir.
So, na-segue nyo na naman din yata eh. No? I want to invite you over to attend on our second virtual summit, which will happen on September 23 and 24. This could be saving the date on this, and you just have to register under our website, and you can also get in touch with our secretariat by emailing her para mabigyan kayo ng links to this event. And you would expect keynotes from our Senator Gatchalian, from Congressman Mikey Arroyo, from Secretary Cusi, and we also feature some of the innovations from Nissan Philippines. We also coordinate and work towards with British Embassy Manila and emphasizing on the COP26 commitments. And we also would like to showcase to you the AFEMA, or Asian Federation Electric Vehicle Association, collaboration with the ASEAN ACE, wherein I also handle as a president of AFEMA. So, mawi-witness nyo yun. Tapos we also addressing concerns on electro-mobility, or what are the infrastructures that are going to expect, yung mga charging stations natin na coming in na, yung mga suppliers natin andito na, what are the programs that are being offered now by the government, especially on the Department of Energy, on the OTR side, and other programs that would like to elevate by the Department of Trade and Industry under Board of Investments. Explaining na yun doon. We-witness nyo siya. Tapos, there are some instances that some charging manufacturers would teach you how in emphasizing on the charging infrastructures. So that's it.
Jam-packed agenda, Sir Ed, for your summit in September. Milo and I will also try to be there. Yes, definitely. And we wish you all the best. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and for joining us and our viewers tonight.
Yeah. I just
I
want to
think
comment,
some of our
this is for
viewers
free.
yes. Yeah, sakto
Ayan, sa
sakto.
mga viewers na nagtatanong, free daw po ang summit in September.
Sakto. Thank you so much, Sir Edmund Araga, for joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure to for us to be enlightened on what really is the electric vehicle industry here in the Philippines and why is it a good decision, especially for each industry at that. We hope to hear from you soon again and sana by that time mas lumaki palalo ang electric vehicle industry dito sa Pilipinas. And like what you just mentioned a while ago, for all those who are very much interested in joining and taking part in the summit, it's for free. Kakasabi lang ni Sir Edmund. And you just have to, excuse me, log on to their website. And I think they also have a Facebook page, hindi ho ba, Sir
Yeah.
Edmund?
Yeah, I forgot to mention there's also Facebook page, and we'll cover it on Facebook as well. Live.
Great. And so, again, thank you so much, Sir Edmund Araga of the Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines, and to my co-host for tonight, Miss Dana Uson. Dana, do you have anything to say after your first episode?
None, except that I'm glad I survived, and I'm glad I had Sir Edward as my very first guest.
Well,
Thank
very
you so much,
much
Milo, for having me. Yeah.
no
Okay,
worries,
thank
Dana.
you.
Thank you so much. Sir Edmund, again, thank you. And
Thank you.
ladies and
More
gentlemen,
power.
thank you, sir. Thank you again. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes another episode of Manila Standard on the Road. But the show is not done, even if the show is done for tonight. You can always comment, be involved by just liking, commenting, and sharing anything Manila Standard on the road or anything Manila Standard at that. And always use the hashtag MS on the road if you want to comment as well. This may be the episode for tonight, but please do look forward to what's in store for all of you guys next week. But for now, it's me, Milo de Vera, saying good night and saying always be safe on the road. Bye bye.